Good evening and welcome to our Joy of Living speaker meeting. My name is Marcela, I'm an alcoholic. Let's start this meeting with a moment of silence followed by that preamble. AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for a membership. We're also supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, political organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So this meeting is being recorded and will be available in our YouTube channel in a few hours. The format of this meeting is that the speaker will speak for half an hour and then we will open for sharings. And our speaker tonight is Richard. Whenever you're ready, Richard.
I'm Richard. I'm a grateful alcoholic since almost April 1986. I became grateful pretty quick. And first of all, I'll share about my family of origin. I came from a very normal family. My mother wanted 12 children, and my father wanted none. So there were problems pretty quick. Well, not pretty quick. When my oldest sister was born, she left. He left for a little while, my father. Then I was born, so he left for a little bit longer. And when my youngest sister was born, he left altogether. And then life became interesting for everybody. That was 8.5 when this occurred. By the time I was 9 or 10, I was stealing so I can provide food for the table in the household. Things were quite crazy. We were living at my grandmother's house, my father's mother's house. And because he sold the other house that we had a year or two before that to build another one, which he never did. So basically we were living at my grandmother's house. His son wasn't around and we were. So we weren't liked very much. And seldom were we provided. So things really began to be interesting for me when I was around 12, 13 years old. I started to hear about the birds and the bees. And I came into recollection that I was raped by a teenager across the street when I was 5, and my uncle when I was 8. So right away I was pretty confused. And I recall that at the age of 13, I made a decision that nothing was ever going to affect me anymore. That I was going to be the greatest force on earth and nothing will bother me. And I was mostly successful until the age of 37. But anyway, from the age of about 8 or 9, I wanted to come to the United States. I still claim to be an American born in the wrong country. And I tried to join the Merchant Marine to come over here, but I was 15, you needed to be 16 at least. So I began to make my mother, her life a little miserable. So she will come over here as a housekeeper, which she did. And then I came over here after about 1.5 years. And within a month, I brought my youngest sister. My oldest sister wasn't invited, but she showed up a few years later. So from the very beginning, I will tell you that I claim to be a rebel and an independent person. And I claim to be a rebel from the time that I was 5.5 years old. And the reason that I thought I was because my mother would take me to school and she'll drop me off. And by the time that she returned to the house, I was already home. And she did that for about a month and she got tired. So she said, okay, forget this, starting early. And I started to go on when I was 6.5. And so I thought that I was a rebel for that reason. I didn't know that at that age I was already so frightened that I couldn't be anywhere else other than the house. And finally, when I made it to the United States, I was very disappointed because when I got to the airport, JFK, the president of the United States and Aunt Margaret were not waiting for me. So I was very disappointed. And being that I'm a practical person, even at that age, the next day I was already working as an electrician's helper for $1.25 an hour. And I began to develop. And my wife was married to me for 17 years. And the reason that I say that is because I really wasn't. When I got married, the reason that I did that was she asked me, I didn't ask her. In my mind, I thought, well, I can always get a divorce. So that's the reason that I agreed to get married, because I didn't have anything better at the time. But then as I have developed and I began to grow materialistically, and then I had more choices, I began to explore those choices. And I always said that my wife didn't like two things about me, and those were my two girlfriends. And I didn't understand that because I thought it was my right. Because after all, I was so deprived. You know, I had suffered so much. Why didn't I have this right? And the only reason that I wound up in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, because at the age of 37, one of the girlfriends, the one that I liked at the most at that time, was an alcoholic. And she won't obey my commands. And, you know, it's almost impossible to get an alcoholic to follow commands. And up to that point, everything that I did, I was always able to compel to my wishes. But when that occurred, something snapped inside of me. And my emotions for the first time in my life, they went crazy. I will tell you that when I followed her to Hazelden, and I followed her to Hazelden because I was sent a questionnaire asking me how I could help her. And with all of my wisdom, I realized that if I went to Hazelden, I could tell them in person better how they could help her. And when I was flying to Minnesota, the first communication from God got through to me. And the reason that I say that is because I always know when a communication is from God. Because what I hear is way too intelligent to be me. And when I was flying to Minnesota, I was looking out the window and the thought came to me like this. Richard, the problem is not with her. The problem is with you. You need help. And I got to Hazelden And I said, I was coming over here to tell you how to fix it, but I realized that I need help. Would you help me, please? And they did. They asked me they asked me to go to a motel room that evening because the office was closed already. And that night was the craziest night of my entire life. At one point, I was contemplating jumping in front of a gas tractor trailer. That's how crazy I was. I went to the bar downstairs to drink, and I barely finished the first drink, and I ordered a second one, and I just couldn't swallow it. I went to eat at a restaurant, and the food was putrid. There was nothing that tasted right. And at one point during that insane evening, I was pacing across the room and in my room, and I was going crazy. And I was walking towards the window, and I could see the mountains. And I fell down to my knees, and I said, God, please help me. I'm dying inside, and I don't know what's wrong with me. What's affecting me right now should not be affecting me the way that it is, but it is. God, please help me. And by the time that night was over, with my tremendous intelligence, I came to assess that they were not going to take me in the morning because they needed to help her. She was the one they needed the help. She was the real alcoholic. So I called, and they paged him, and he got on the line and says, I have a room ready for you. And all that I could do at that moment was, through my cries, would say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And for the first time in my life, when I got in my car to drive over there, I was driving by myself. For the first time, I was not alone. And it has been that way for me since then. And then really magical things begin to happen. But like I said, I was not an alcoholic then. I was not an alcoholic, but the last day, when it was time for me to live, from the moment that I woke up that morning, the whole morning was, when I get to the airport, now I can get some scotch. But I wasn't an alcoholic, but that was the only thought that was going on in my head. And being that I'm an alcoholic that doesn't know how to keep things together, when I got to the airport and I was going over my scotch, and I said, Richard, how can you order a scotch? You just got out of an alcoholic facility. How can you do that? So I didn't. Excuse me. So when I got back to Dallas, and by this time I had already accumulated 5 stores, 3 houses, and many amenable things, including a new Porsche and all of that good stuff. But I had all of those things, and I saw that I had lost me in the process. And they told me to go to Al-Anon. And this was in February when I was at Hazelden. And from February to April 19, I was going to Al-Anon. And in the beginning, it was good because I didn't know anything about anything. So even there, that was good. But after I was there for about a month and a half or more, I began to see that those people were really pretty sad in that group that I was going to. And after a while, I began to think, hey, I don't need help to feel bad. I can do that on my own. And then I began to hear the laughter from across the hall from AA. So I decided, yeah, I'm not an alcoholic, and I'll go over there. So I went over there, and then I saw the third tradition. The only requirement for membership is a desire not to drink. Sure, I don't have a desire to drink. And it went that way for a little while. And then, like the day after I was in AA, I got a sponsor. And my sponsor put me to read the big book first, the first 164 pages, and call him every day. I went to meetings every day. And even though I knew I was not an alcoholic, I went to meetings 3 to 5 times a day. Even though I had the 5 stores and over 40 employees, and a wife and a son. And so I had a real problem right from the beginning, because when he put me on step 1 and said we're powerless over alcohol and I've become unmanageable. I don't have a problem with the alcohol. I said to myself, I'm not powerless over alcohol. And they thought the alcoholics were people that have been married several times and had DWIs. And hell, I was still married to my first wife, and I never got a DWI. So I was pretty confused. And again, God came to my intervention, because I knew that I needed help, even though alcohol, I didn't perceive it as being my problem. But by the way, one of the things that was occurring from the time that I started to go to Al-Anon, for the first time I started going out with the salespeople to the TGI Fridays and all of those places. And it used to be that whenever I had a drink during the day, I would get a headache. And when I started going there, and I had eliminated the secrets, because my rapes, I told them all at Hazelton, by the way. So I cleaned up a barrier. So I will order the scotch and I will have it, and it tasted really good. Then I get another one, and hell, it was better. And so was the third one. And then when I was going to order the fourth one, oh, wait a minute, I got to stop. I'm going to be an alcoholic. So the way the alcoholism got me was really by the acronym ABADism, which is I, self, and me. Yeah. Everything was about the little baby, me. The baby needed to be taken care of, because inside of me there was nothing yet. So I was in step 1 and I wasn't powerless over alcohol. How am I going to do the steps? And God came to me, and it came to me this way. I needed to change the word alcohol to life. And the way that the first step read for me in the beginning was, I was powerless over life, and my life had become unmanageable. But something else happened that was really marvelous. I no longer was working the steps on alcohol. I was working the steps on everything. All of my behaviors. And I'm so blessed about that, because sometimes I hear people with many, many, many years, and they still, the only thing they talk about is the alcohol. Even though in page 64, it tells me that alcohol is but a symptom. The liquor was but a symptom. And at the end of working with others, it tells me the bottles were but an emblem of our problems. So, but I need to clarify one thing. Even though I knew I wasn't an alcoholic, I actually began began to be an alcoholic after a few months that I was on the program. And the way that I became an alcoholic was like this. Richard, you say you never got any DWIs, right? How many have you deserved? Oh, that was another story. 20, 30? I think that will make me an alcoholic. And then I said, well, Richard, you haven't been divorced not even once yet. Well, Richard, it's very hard to get divorced when you have an extramarital affairs while you're married. So I began to put things with some level of clarity. I began to realize that part of the doctor's opinion, in which it states, after a while, the alcoholic cannot differentiate the true from the false. And the thing that I liked the most before sobriety was reality. I realized that AA is a way in which I could come out to be living a life like I never experienced before, because the reality of my life prior to AA is I was not alive. I was surviving, and I wasn't doing too well at it myself. It was just this is what I used to believe about God. I knew that there had to be one, because I'm gonna have to have created this crap. And that didn't help me much. So as I began to work, I hate to use the word work, as I began to learn the practice outline in the big book and the 12 and 12 of the practices that I need to do to develop a good life, and I began to practice those things, life began to be something worth living. And I have always been pretty weird, really, because whichever direction the majority of the people are going, you're going to see me go the other way. And for instance, one of the things that I observe is people were miserable because they saw how their lives were before it. And now they come into the program. So like before, my life was miserable and I didn't know it. Then I got into the program and I didn't see my life being miserable. What I saw was the kind of miserable human being that I had become. And as I began to learn how to live life like a human being instead of a human doer, I began to experience the good life. So whenever I saw how stupid and ignorant I was in any area, I laughed. I didn't have to continue being that way. But most people that I saw, when they see that, is woo me before and woo me after and woo me after. So I didn't see any purpose to go into a place that has the solution to still remain on the problem. And whenever I spoke with my sponsor on a daily basis, we will talk about the step that I was studying, and we will have communications in regards to that. And after I was, sober about 5 or 6 months, and the business that I had, I was running it with my wife at the time. And I used to have a horrible temper. Bad temper is not enough. It was horrible. And after I was sober just a few months, my then wife made the mistake to disagree with me. So I rearranged the furniture in her office. And I stopped short of putting the desk on top of her. And a couple of months later, she did the same thing. And this time I got up and I was going to start with the desk. And I said, wait a minute, Katie, I can't do this again. Either you leave or I leave. What's it going to be? How do you want to do it? And she says, I don't know. And it was a Wednesday. And I said, I'll be back next week. Tell me what you want to do. When I came back, I said to her, did you decide? And she said, no, I don't know what to do. And I said, well, how about if I give you the 5 stores, the everything that goes with it, the 2 houses, and the 3rd house I had already given it to my mother. So there was only 2 houses in question. And I said, and you give me $5,000. And I also was giving back the Porsche. And she decided that she could do that. She could agree to that. But I only got $3,500. And I got the Porsche too. But I had a payment of $1,050 a month in 1986. So it solved 2 problems. Because when I used to go to AA, I used to say all the time, Richard, how can you be humble driving a new Porsche 928? It's impossible. I really didn't have I didn't have any comprehension of the word humility. And but being that my wife gave me the Porsche with the bill, when the payment came due the following month, I got on that car and I drove it to the dealership. And on my way to the dealership, I realized what humility was. And I developed humility about what I was doing at that moment. When I got to the dealership, I got the managers and gave him the keys and says, I can't pay for this car anymore. But I guess I could have let them chase me for a few months. Because when I took the $3,500, that's all that I took. I didn't take anything else. And the store used to run a couple of $100,000 a month. So I considered that to get rid of my anger, it was about $1 million. And I will tell you that is one of the greatest buys that I have ever made. It was really, really cheap to buy me getting rid of my anger for $1 million. It was really cheap. And so as life continued to develop for me, and I started going through the steps, and every day was almost like a miracle. I confronted my uncle, the one that raped me. I confronted certain things that had happened to someone else. And I didn't have to walk around with the kind of face that people will need to ask me if I needed to find my preparation age. I never liked that kind of face. I wanted to have a pleasant face, and I began to learn a little about the looking at a person's eyes and looking at the windows of the spirit. And I remember I was telling people about learning to see the windows of the spirit. And one day I was outside my apartment and I said to myself, Richard, you've been talking to people about the windows of the spirit. When was the last time that you checked your eyes? So I went inside my apartment and I went to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. And I looked at my eyes And I didn't see happy, joyous, and free. I saw that there was uncertainty, a little sadness, and a little confusion. I said, Richard, what the hell is going on? And I began to think about the girlfriend that I had. And she was a nut. She was up and down like a yo-yo. If whatever was good today, you can be sure that it wasn't going to be good tomorrow. So, as the result of something happening right after that with her, she was gone, and then the spirit of my eyes came back because I stopped carrying the weight of another human being. Just like it talks about on page 132 of the big book. Well, the part that I'm thinking of is we cannot subscribe that this life is a vale of tears, even though it was just that for some of us. But it is evident that we made our own misery. God didn't do it. We avoid them to deliver manufacturer misery. If trouble comes, cheerfully capitalize to demonstrate his omnipotence. And that's what I do most of the time. I will tell you that in sobriety, I probably have cried thousands of times. And 99% of them were out of joy. There's nothing more beautiful for me than to cry out of joy. Sometimes when I do cry for something that happens to somebody just briefly, when sometimes I'm touched when I see somebody doing something that is really courageous or altruistic. But I just experience it and move on. I don't have to carry the weight of the world anymore. In the very beginning, I learned about don't take myself too damn serious. Then afterwards, I began to practice Rule 63, which I invented. Don't take them too damn serious. And life has started to be really something worth enjoying. I tell you the way that it is for me today, one of the most rewarding experiences that I have the pleasure to endure in a daily basis is I don't bother me. I don't bother me at all. Because I have come to know which one of us is God. And I have never seen God kneeling to me. But I have kneeled many a times. My wife and I, we like going to state sales. And a few months ago, I picked up this one that I really like. So I bought it. And what it says on it is, the man who kneels to God can stand up to anything. I have gone through many relationships on the program, including the divorce, the death of my mother, a brother-in-law, trusting someone in the family too much. And after I had made my money back again, it was stolen. But I'm never concerned about not trusting people, because for everything that has been taken from me, it has been replenished back to me times over. So even though I went from rich to poor, and then again rich to poor, and then again okay, I didn't experience a great deal of problems. Because you see, I'm no longer a parasite like I used to be. I used to be a parasite because I have to live. I needed to live off of even dead things. At least the parasite lives on something that was alive at one point. But I used to be a parasite from things that were never even alive. And I'm not that way anymore. And in a half hour really sucks to tell my story. And the way that I would like to live it is when I began to learn the practices outlined in the program is when I began to receive the joy of living. And the big book is not a reading book. The 12 and 12 is not a reading book. Both of those books are textbooks. And I needed to learn the same way that I learned the multiplication tables, one at a time. And one of the things that I also learned to do is each step that I take, the practices of that step, I carry on to the next step, and so on and so forth. And I used to think that it was because I was very smart the way that I did that. But I had a sponsee at one point, which I gave him the job of writing, noting how many times on step 12 of the 12 and 12 does it say to practice all of the steps. And he wrote that 17 times. And I think I can find more than he did because I'm better than he is. But the deal is that Bill Wilson was an English buff. And part of his deal was he never wanted to repeat things. On step 12, he talks about doing all of the steps over 17 times at least. And whenever I don't feel right, which it doesn't happen very often, I know three things. Number one, I'm playing God. Number two, I'm not doing the practices of the program. And number three, I'm being selfish and self-centered. Life is really good as long as I don't mess it up. Most of the time I do okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you so much. So we have some time to share. If it's okay with you, I'm not going to time people. You time yourself if you want to say something. I don't see any hands raised. So I'll go and I'll say that my name is Marcela. I'm an alcoholic. I have so many things in common with you that I wrote them down. I'm also an immigrant to this country. English is not my first language. I also lost all pleasure in life at some point. The very last thing that I lost to alcoholism was the attachment to life. I didn't want to be alive anymore. And I also believe in the big book as a textbook. And I also don't like to say work the steps. I like to say to successfully incorporate the skills of the steps into my daily life. But that takes too long to say, right? But that's my experience. Successfully integrate the skills of the steps in my daily life. I swear by the 12 steps. And I also believe that you can be in the joy of living, which is not being manically, crazily happy, but just a serene energy that is sustainable and good for everybody, including me. So I thank you for your service, and I thank you for your obvious commitment to this way of life. I thank you for all the people who you've sponsored and continue to sponsor. And I thank you for your baby son, the one that we know, Jay, and the ones that we don't know yet. And thank you so much for the joy of living. Okay, I see Ellen, Crystal, and Marisol. Ellen?
Hi, my name is Ellen. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Richard. Oh my gosh. I just love listening to your lead. You have come so far in this program. And, you know, they told me that after I worked the 12 steps, I had a spiritual awakening because I didn't believe that was possible, but it is. And it also says deep down inside of every man, woman, and child is the fundamental belief of a higher power. And I truly believe that today. And I want to thank you, Richard. And I want to tell you something that a Mexican friend of mine in the program had told me. He said he came here a poor Mexican and he became a rich Spaniard. So thanks, Richard.
You're welcome.
Crystal?
Hi, Crystal Alcoholic. Richard, thank you so much for your share. I'm what, 16 days in. I don't have a lot to share. I'm still trying to figure out just the first step, really, and moving my way through. I mostly just wanted to share how moving it is for me to come in every day and to see you there every day and to see your commitment in the parking lot. When I end up finding myself there almost every day, just so, because I know that I'm going to end up picking up a few little nuggets of things that you're going to say when you're helping somebody, which, you know, most of the time is me. And it just really means a lot to me is all. So thanks for everything that you said. I'm going to pass.
Thank you, Crystal. Marisol?
Hello, my name is Marisol and I'm an alcoholic. And Richard, I'm getting a little teary-eyed, but I was not going to miss you for the world. When I needed someone, when I first came to the Joy of Living group, I needed a father figure to give me the words of wisdom that you gave me. And I'm a newcomer, but you touched my heart by just giving me the words of wisdom. And I was just like you. I felt I've been sexually molested when I was a child. And I was hurt and I was in a lot of pain. And I grew up with all that pain. And I started drinking, and that was like I gave it a permission statement to continue my drinking. And after the loss of my child, I did so many things that, you know, that when you're into that state of mind, when you start drinking, you it's like you lose yourself. But God came in, like you said, God came into my intervention and he saved me from all that, you know. And I realized that it was worth living, you know, that if I practice these 12 steps and I go through the books and the more I partake in it, the more I'm gonna feel that I'm worth living. I'm a person with purpose, and I just thank God for his grace that he's given me the courage to open up to y'all. And I don't know what to say anymore, but I just know that you have touched my heart. That's all I could say. And I mean it with my bottom of my heart, Richard. And I just want to say thank you. And Jay, you know, you sponsored him, and man, he talks words of wisdom too. So I just know that you're doing something great. And I just want to let you know that.
Thank you.
With that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Marisol. Kate?
Hi, guys. I just want to thank you also, Richard. You are every morning an inspiration. Your face is kind, your eyes are kind, and your words are, I learned something. They're not just words. I really do. I honestly look things up. I learn things, and I love how you repeat the pages and the meanings behind most of the words, thanks to Webster. And you've given me a lot of hope. You've given me a lot of strength. You've praised me, which is nice to hear every once in a while. And you've also reminded me that this is a journey every single day. And no matter how good it gets or no matter how bad it gets, you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So we need each other, and we need this time, and we need to rely on the people like you and Marcella and Tommy and Jay and the people that have time behind their belt, have been where we are and continue to give service to help us. You know, no one asked you to do that, and you did it. And I'm very grateful to all of you. So thank you, and beautiful speaking tonight. And it was very moving. I hate that your life was hard when you were younger, but I always say that we wouldn't be where we are today if we changed anything in our past. So I don't wish it away for you. I'm just glad you're here. Thanks.
Thank you, Kate. Bob G.
Yeah, Bob, I'm alcoholic. Hey, Richard, nice job, man. It's awesome that you are able to do what you just did. You're just open and honest, and you know, especially setting a great example for people coming into the program. Because think about it, like you walk in off the street and all you know about these people is they're a bunch of drunks, like seriously, and you're supposed to like stop and take their advice, and you're supposed to stop and listen to what they have to say, and they're going to tell you how they did it and how, you know, how it got better, and you know, and it's like, really, it just seems totally irrational, and you make it make sense, and it does make sense, and that's why we recommend it. We take these things that sound difficult, they sound intimidating, they sound some kind of illogical, to take this program and apply it to our lives, and you know, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to like not drink, we're supposed to stay sober, and then what? Trust somebody. All we know is they're a drunk. We're supposed to do what they say. They tell us that this simple little program is going to fix somebody as incredibly unique and special as me, and we all went through all of that, all of those emotions, and on our own sort of path, and came out the other end doing what you're doing, recommending it. We recommend that you do it. So thanks for telling it like it is, like it was for you, and for being there for this meeting. It's a blessing to know, and this is way too many pats on the back for any drunk, but it's a blessing to know that you're reaching people and that you're helping people. It's fantastic. And my sponsor that died a few years ago used to say, congratulating a drunk for staying sober is like congratulating a cowboy with hemorrhoids for not riding his horse. So I'll let you think about that one for a minute. That's all I got.
Thank you, Bob. Greg.
Richard. Oh, I'm Greg. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. Boy, am I so glad that I heard you tonight. I'm thinking about it still. All I can say right now is that there is incredible, the story is so strong, but there's such an incredible feeling of humility that you give off, and I'm really touched by it. Thank you so much. You gave me so much and gave all of us so much. Appreciate it. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Marty.
Thank you for calling on me. I'm Marty. I'm an alcoholic. It's always, I think, amazing for me to think about the amount of time that people that don't get paid you know, have no specific training, you know, schooling and all this stuff are willing and able to offer to someone like me, and you know, the people that affects, you know, once I'm affected. My wife pointed out the other day that you know, I think I had said something about, or was laughing about how I was letting some mold on strawberries or something bother me, and I thought that was silly, and shared with her that you know, I called my sponsor because of that and stuff. We both laughed a little bit, and she said, "Yeah, maybe it sounds a little goofy, but when she said to me, when about 2 months ago, or before this process, I remember you were surprised that I brought a lunchbox. And you've been working from home for a year and you never noticed. And then now you make my lunch every day. The difference between being awake and conscious versus not being awake and conscious, that's a tremendous gift that I did nothing to deserve, and feel incredibly blessed to have received. And I plan on continuing to listen because my life has changed so much for the better. So thank you.
You're welcome. How about you, Veronica?
You beat me. I wanted to call Veronica.
Okay, I didn't say anything.
Okay, thank you. Veronica, would you like to say hi? Because
Hi.
Richard was worried about you this morning.
Hi, I'm Veronica from Philadelphia area. And yeah, thank you very much, Richard, for sharing your story. And I've been attending every morning or most mornings since around Christmas. And I've just feel very grateful to have found this group. I know I don't talk very often, but working toward that. And yeah, thank you for a sense of community. It's very, very nourishing.
Who's next, Richard?
Hi, I'm Brenda. I'm an alcoholic.
Okay, thank you, Brenda.
The one that was hiding.
Yeah, I'm the one hiding. I don't want to make you guys miserable with my non-smiley face, but maybe one day that'll change. But of course, I want to say thank you too, like everyone else. You know, I've been in AA before, and coming back, I was really anticipating not staying and not working. I wanted a reason to keep drinking, and then there you were. You were an example of the program, which is so hard to find. There's so many people who can talk the talk, but they aren't applying it to their life. And that's, you know, it's hard to follow somebody who isn't doing what they're talking about, you know, because I'm really good at that. I can talk about anything. So I am grateful for the work that you've done, the studying of the big book and passing it on, and making me do it, because I don't know that I would have stayed sober, because that 1 hour of meeting, I could stay sober, but I don't know if I would have beyond that if you hadn't assigned that to us. So thank you very much for everything you've done.
Thank you, Brenda. And thank you for the phone list. Oh, Tara, want to say something, Tara?
Hi, I'm Tara, alcoholic. Richard, when I first started hearing you speak, I thought, this guy acts like he knows everything. I don't think I really like him very much. And that just told everything about me. Nothing about Richard. It just informed me what kind of space I was in. And one weekend after the meeting, I stayed after at the parking lot, and he talked to me and some other people. I think, I'm telling you, it seemed like we were on the phone for like 2 hours. That might have included the meeting, but I mean, just listened to me yammer on with all of my sparkling wisdom of a newcomer. And he gently reminded me that I needed to listen really more than I needed to be given. And I just needed to listen more. And I knew that, but I'm a nervous talker. And so I don't share a whole lot because I'm aware of that. And not like what I say has got to be any kind of perfection. And it's, in the end, I know that me sharing really, if it helps anybody, that's great. But I know that I need to share for myself. But Richard, you taught me that, well, I hate crying in front of people. You loved me so much that you said, Tara, you need to listen some. I'm not sure how you said it, but that was the message. And so I have been. And the funny thing is, the guy that I used to look at and be like, oh, that guy who knows everything, that Richard, that guy again. Now, every time I see him, I'm getting ready for work in the morning, usually when we have our morning meetings. If I'm across the room, I'm going to come in front of my phone and I'm going to look and listen, because now Richard is the man that I want to hear what he's got to say. And I love you, Richard. And I'm really grateful for you. Really grateful for you. And I'll say this last thing is, one day, whenever the whole world has the vaccine and we can fly again freely, I really want to come to a meeting in Dallas. We've got to have a joy of living. It wouldn't be a reunion. It would be like a first joy of living in-person party. I appreciate you. Thank you, Richard.
By the way, I'm a pretty good evaluator. You know, I'm gonna rate Jay's speaking in a scale of 1 to 10, being an 11. And I'm gonna rate mine on a scale of 1 to 10, being about a 5. I can handle the half hour very well.
You did a pretty good job. Okay, so we have Richo. Would you like to say hi?
Hi, good night, everyone. Good night, Richard. I have been following this group for 1 week. I have been sober for 24 days. I want to thank Marcela because she has, I am from Mexico, and she has like guided me these days. And when I think about Richard, he's a legend for me. I feel very grateful to hear his story. And I have like a lot in mind what you have said, Richard, a lot of times. Well, you have said it like 3 or 4 times. What does it mean to be sober? And you have said that sober is not is to have balance in life. And when I arrived here, I thought that to be sober is not to drink, and it is far away from that. I think that a lot of people, when they stop drinking, they just start to survive, and I have hope with your words, because I would like to be sober. I would like to achieve that balance, and being sober means to live with the program, and not just to stop drinking. So I have a lot of work to do, but really I admire you a lot, and congratulations for your story, Richard. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Richo.
Thank you.
So that's all the time we have tonight. I'm sorry that I didn't see James on time, but we'll meet tomorrow at 7:30 Central. Feel free to join us. So we'll end this meeting, as we end all our meetings, with a moment of silence. And Richard, would you be so kind to lead us in prayer after the moment in silence?
Which one?
The one that you want, the one that speaks to you.
God, thank you for granting me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Thank you for the courage to change the things I can. And thank you for the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.